They demanded I babysit for free, then reported me for abandoning their kids.
Update. Something unexpected happened. CPS showed up again. The agent who had called me initially was now coming to my home to do a follow-up visit. Apparently, they had received new information regarding Sarah and James's complaint, and they were required to conduct an additional inquiry. This time, I wasn't just asked about the events of the weekend. I was asked about my personal life, my relationship with Sarah, and the history of babysitting. The agent was cordial, but it was clear that they were trying to find something, anything, that could back up the claims of neglect. It was a strange, surreal experience. I had done nothing wrong, yet I was still being scrutinized. The agent went through my house, checking everything, asking if I had enough food stocked, whether I had any safety precautions in place for the kids, if I kept their emotional well-being in mind. At this point, I felt like I was being put on trial for something I didn't even do. I tried to remain calm, but I couldn't help but feel like Sarah and James were trying to destroy me. Not because of the kids' well-being, but because they wanted to control the situation and punish me for standing up for myself. Finally, after what felt like hours, the agent left, promising to get back to me once the investigation was complete. It was a huge relief, but the damage had already been done. The whole thing had been humiliating. I'd had to explain every single detail of my life to a stranger who seemed to be looking for any excuse to label me as a bad person. That's when I realized something. This wasn't just about the kids. It was about Sarah's need to be in control. It was about her using her kids as pawns in a game to manipulate everyone around her and make herself look like a saint. She was deflecting her own irresponsibility by accusing me of neglect when she was the one who had caused all of this in the first place. I was sick of it, sick of being used, sick of trying to help people who didn't appreciate it, and sick of the idea that I had to constantly bend over backward to appease everyone else. So, I did something that shocked everyone. I cut ties with Sarah and James. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. I blocked them on social media, stopped answering their calls, and told my husband I wasn't going to babysit their kids anymore. I was done. It wasn't worth it anymore. It wasn't long before the fallout from that decision hit. Sarah and James reached out to other family members to get them involved. Sarah called my parents, crying about how I was the one who had abandoned her. She told them I was unreasonable and didn't care about her family. The real kicker? She even started telling people I'd spread lies about her to justify why I didn't want to be around her anymore. She was framing herself as the wounded party, tried to manipulate everyone into thinking I was the one who had wronged her by cutting her off. The worst part was that my parents believed her. They started to pressure me, asking me if I was sure about my decision, telling me that I shouldn't be so hasty. They suggested I just forgive Sarah for all the chaos and try to make things work. I'm sure they just wanted peace, but I was so far past that at this point. I wasn't going to let Sarah play the victim anymore. The back and forth between me and my parents dragged on for weeks, and it made me feel like I was constantly on edge. I tried to explain my side calmly, but they just couldn't see it. They kept telling me that family is family, no matter what, and that I should try to make amends. But I knew better. I wasn't going to keep playing into her games. Sarah and James eventually stopped trying to reach out to me directly, though I heard from family members that they were still spreading their version of events. The whole situation had left a bad taste in my mouth, and I was no longer willing to play the role of the family peacemaker. I stayed distant. I focused on my own mental health, my marriage, and the friends who'd stood by me. I knew I'd made the right decision. Update. After the chaos with Sarah and James, I thought I was finally out of the woods. I kept my distance from them, didn't respond to any more of their messages, and focused on rebuilding my own life. But then, months later, I got an unexpected message from Sarah. It was short and simple. Hey, I'd really like to talk. Could we meet up? Now, I knew from experience that whenever Sarah wanted to talk, there was usually some hidden motive. I wasn't about to fall for her manipulation again, but part of me felt like I deserved closure, like I needed to hear her out one last time, see if she was truly sorry, or if this was just another attempt to control the narrative. So, I agreed to meet her at a cafe. When I showed up, Sarah was already there, looking surprisingly different. She wasn't her usual confident self. She was fidgeting, her voice was softer, and she wasn't rushing to explain herself. Instead, she seemed almost guilty. I didn't trust her one bit, but I also knew she was a master manipulator. So I came prepared. I started recording the conversation from the moment I sat down. I had a gut feeling that she'd try to turn this around and spin it back on me. If she was about to make another move to pull me back in, I needed evidence. I wasn't going to let her control this situation again. She started off slow, easing into it. "I know I've hurt you, Opie," she began. "I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I realize now that I was wrong. I made accusations that weren't true, and I took things too far. I treated you unfairly, and I want to say that I'm sorry for that." My first instinct was to just nod, but I wasn't buying it. She was still talking like she was the victim, and her apology seemed a little too rehearsed. Then, she kept going. "I know I've asked a lot of you, but I really need you to understand. I was under so much stress, and I didn't handle it well. I shouldn't have made you feel like you had to help me. And I definitely shouldn't have made you feel guilty for saying no." My gut was telling me that she was trying to disarm me, trying to make me feel sorry for her again. I didn't trust a word of it, but I let her continue. I really want to fix things," she said. "I want things to be better between us. Opie, I'm truly sorry for everything." At this point, she had managed to get through her apology, but I could tell she was baiting me. She had an agenda. I knew she wasn't being sincere, and there was something else she was working toward. Sure enough, after a long, dramatic pause, she got to the real reason why she wanted to meet me. "I know this might be a lot to ask," she started, her voice softer now, "but we have a wedding coming up, and it's really important to us. We need someone to look after the kids for the day, and we thought of you. We really trust you, and I know it's short notice, but would you be willing to babysit?" That's when it clicked for me. This wasn't about making amends. This wasn't about her trying to make things right. She wasn't sorry for what happened. She just wanted me back in her corner so I could babysit again. I didn't say anything at first, just letting the silence hang between us. Sarah looked at me, waiting for a response, her eyes wide with expectation. But I already knew what I had to do. I had been recording the conversation the entire time. I had the proof of her confession, her apology, and her request all on tape. But before I let her manipulate me into agreeing, I stopped the recording. I wasn't going to make the same mistake again. I had my evidence, but this time I wasn't going to agree to anything. Not before I set some boundaries. "I'll think about it," I told her. Her eyes lit up like she thought that was a win. She actually seemed relieved, as if the worst was over. But I had no intention of agreeing to babysit. Not now. Not after everything. A few hours later, the wedding day came, and true to form, Sarah and James tried to drop the kids off at my house. I wasn't about to let them push me around again, so when they arrived, I opened the door with a calm but firm expression. "Sorry, I can't take the kids today," I said, shaking my head. "I never agreed to babysit." James and Sarah both blinked, looking completely caught off guard. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice rising in disbelief. "We agreed you'd babysit for us today." "No, we didn't," I replied, my tone staying even. "I told you I'd think about it, but I never agreed to watch them." They both stood there for a moment, frozen. Then James tried to make a last-ditch effort, saying, "We really need this. You're the only one who can help us." But I wasn't budging. I had learned my lesson the hard way, and I wasn't going to fall for their tactics anymore. And then, just when they thought they were going to guilt-trip me into submission, I pulled out my phone. "I've got a recording of our conversation," I said flatly. "If you think I agreed to this, you're mistaken. I have the evidence right here." Sarah's face went pale. She started to argue, but I wasn't listening. "I never agreed to babysit today," I repeated, "and now I'm going to send this recording to everyone you've been talking to about me." With that, I hit send. I sent the audio recording to every family member who had been involved in this drama. They needed to hear the truth. I wasn't going to let Sarah twist the narrative anymore. And then, just when they thought they were going to guilt-trip me into submission, I pulled out my phone. "I've got a recording of our conversation," I said flatly. "If you think I agreed to this, you're mistaken. I have the evidence right here." Sarah's face went pale. She started to argue, but I wasn't listening. "I never agreed to babysit today," I repeated, and now I'm going to send this recording to everyone you've been talking to about me. With that, I hit send. I sent the audio recording to every family member who had been involved in this drama. They needed to hear the truth. I wasn't going to let Sarah twist the narrative anymore. The fallout was quick. Sarah and James tried to lie their way out of it, claiming I was misunderstanding things, but the recording was clear as day. I could hear Sarah's apology. I could hear her begging me to babysit, and I could hear her confessing that she had made a mistake. No amount of backpedaling could erase that. And for the first time, I finally felt free. No more manipulation. No more guilt trips. No more running around trying to please people who didn't care about me. I set my boundaries, and I was sticking to them.